how to truly define success in your life. If you're here, I commend you because you are taking the steps necessary to make a change within your life. Defining success in our life can be difficult because often we look at society's expectations or what mom or dad said, and we never really truly think, what does success look like to us in our lives? And that's the question I'm going to help you answer today, is what success looks like to you. So, how to truly define success in your life. I have two main points on defining it. Then I'm going to talk about how I define my personal success. And then you're going to want to stay around for point 4 because that's going to be the obstacles and actions that you need to take and look at when defining success within your life. So, the first question to ask yourself or thing to think about when defining success within your life is to question traditional success metrics. Do you fit within those? So for example, do you fit within the societal norms of money, status, power, and then for women would be looks and children? And that's my opinion, but that's how I see the societal norms. That's what status and success looks like, is those 5 things. So maybe you do fit into those things. Great. But maybe you don't. And if you don't, that is okay. I have a little story about that actually, where my grandpa, he wanted me to go into a very traditional field, doctor, lawyer, engineer, whatever, and make a bunch of money. That's not what I wanted to do. Don't get me wrong, I still want to be successful in my own way, but I didn't want to go be a doctor or lawyer. I wanted to be a therapist. I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to help people, and he really frowned upon that. But I wouldn't have felt like I was making the most out of my life if I went down that path. I felt like I would have been chasing the money. And I think a lot of us can fall into that because society commends that money and that power and that status so much. And if you want that, great, go after it. But some of you might not want that, and that's okay too. So I'd encourage you to question traditional success metrics and think about your own values. What do you value? Maybe you simply value raising a beautiful family and being present in their lives at all times. Or maybe you do value building $1 million, $10 million business. Great. Whatever it is, understand your values and then go after that. Because once you question those traditional success values, that moves us to the second step of defining personal success. What does amazing look like a year from now? That's the question to ask yourself. What does amazing look like a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And when you're asking yourself this question, write down that visualization that you come up with. When you wake up, what does that look like? What does your day-to-day look like? And what you can do, a really helpful way to break this down, is think about what does amazing look like in my professional life? What does amazing look like in my relationships? What does amazing look like with my health? What does amazing look like with my resources? And if you're able to define all of those 4 things, what it's going to be able to do is you have a visualization, a crystal clear visualization of your head of what success looks like, and then you know what to drive towards. Because once you know what to drive towards, you have that visualization, that outcome, then you know the steps you need to take to get there. You might not know all the steps, but you can get the first few steps. You're like, okay, if I want to build $1 million business, I need to build a high income skill. Great. Or if I want to be at every one of my kids' soccer games, I need to make sure I have good work-life balance. If I want to have a 6-pack abs a year from now, I need to go to the gym. So it gives you your first steps, which can be very helpful because when we define success, it's great to think about it. We want to think about the steps we can take along the way to achieve what amazing looks like for each and every one of us. So what does amazing look like? And then align those with your values. So my values are to help people and really truly make a difference within people's lives, because I went through a really difficult time in July of 2019. And I never want anybody to end up in the situation that I was in. So to do that, I want to help people by coaching them and by making these videos and educating people to empower them to live a life on their terms. And so for me, I need to align what does amazing look like with that. That needs to be a piece of the pie for me, is impacting others. It needs to be somewhere in there, obviously probably in the professional side of things. I need to be impacting people's lives in that way. Now, once we define personal success, here I'm going to talk about how I define my personal success. I define my personal success not as happiness. A lot of people think, oh, I want to be happy. Well, by saying you want to be happy, you're not happy. You're saying that you're at a deficit. So what I like to focus on is I like to focus on how can I make the most out of my life? What can I do today to maximize my time? Because my time here on earth, it is limited. I've been so grateful for the time I've been here, but it will end at some day. And so what can I do in my time here to make the most out of my life? That's what I'm always asking myself, because I'm not focused on being happy all the time. I'm okay with being sad, stressed, or angry. I'm gonna just focus on making the most out of my life. And if I do that, I think I'll be happy. Because honestly, I think happiness is a little bit of a retroactive or retro, like you look back on it, if that makes sense. You're like, look back at those times, like, yeah, I felt happy because I was doing this. Anyways, so I'm focused on what can I do to make the most out of my life. That's the first thing of personal success for me. It helps me maximize my time here. But the second piece of me and my personal success is making my impact on others. And as I mentioned in the last point, that's coaching, that's making these educational videos, that's helping people take control of their lives. But on top of that, in the future, I would like to donate a large sum of money to those who are disabled. Those people have a very soft spot in my heart because they started out life with a disadvantage, and I felt like I was dealt aces. So for me, I want to make an impact not only in my coaching and helping people, but also be able to give back that money to try to give them the opportunities that I have been afforded. So that's a big piece of what my personal success looks like, is if I did that. Now, on top of that, another piece of my success is taking care of my family. I want to make sure that my family, my wife, and my kids are always taken care of. I don't have kids yet, but once I do have kids, I want to make sure that no matter what, they have a father that is strong and they know that they will be taken care of. Same thing with my wife. It's a big piece of my personal success, as well as how I see myself as a man as well, too. On top of that, my net worth, and not just for the status or the power. Yeah, that stuff is cool, but it ties back into the previous things. Is my net worth and getting as high as I can is very influential in the previous two things I mentioned, because by high net worth, I can give a lot of that money back to those disabled people, and I can get my message out further on top by building a big company or whatever that is. But then also with the high net worth is I can take care of my family. God forbid I die or something like that. When I have kids and wife, they have a large sum of money that they can rely on, and that they don't have to worry about money or income right away after I die. So those are my pieces of success and what's important to me. So I would encourage you to define that and look at those things and be able to understand how do those pieces fit together for you. Now, once you define your success, you're going to need to look at the obstacles and actions you need to take. So I would ask you to look at what could hold you back or distract you. So I'm going to reference the example earlier. Maybe you wanted to go to one of your kids' soccer games. Well, what kind of things could hold you back? Well, you need that work-life balance to get off work by like 4 p.m. so you can get to that soccer game. Or that work could distract you. You need to make sure that you're getting your work done earlier in the day if you're self-employed, or maybe you have work after work. So it's important to be able to get those things done so that you can make the soccer game. Or maybe, we'll go back to the example earlier again, is that maybe you want to have a $1 million business. What could distract you? Well, there's plenty of distractions that could hold you away from that, whether it's shiny object syndrome, whether it's just TV or whatever it is. You got to understand what could distract you and what obstacles stand in your way to get your success that you've defined in the previous points. Now, another piece of the obstacles and actions to take is think about how can you build resilience? Because on your way to success that you've defined it as, you will run into roadblocks. And how are you going to be able to get over those roadblocks? What are you going to lean back on to be able to work through those things? For me, it's exercise. Exercise is a lifesaver for me. If I don't work out, I'm usually in a worse mood. When I work out, I feel like I get all those emotions out, I feel really good, and I develop that resilience. On top of developing resilience, you need to be able to learn from failures. On your way to personal success, you will fail. Maybe you miss one of your kids' soccer games, or your business isn't going how you want it to be. How can you learn from those things to ensure that in the future they change so that you can reach your success as you define it? Now, on top of learning from failure, the actions you can take are you can set goals. With goals, don't just set any goals, set action-based goals that you can control, not outcome-based. And on top of those, use the 4 ITs of goal setting, those being say it out loud, write it down, write a date on it, and then send it to someone. You'll be much more likely to achieve this. I do this with my mentor all the time, and I also do this with my partner with quarterly objectives, as we write them down together and then share them with each other so that we know and are accountable to each other. Now, on top of the goals is you need to ask yourself, what's the first step? And that is the most important thing. If you take anything away from this video, it's to ask yourself, what is the first step on personal success? So you need to ask yourself, what's the first step? And then take that action as soon as you can, because we can think about it as much as we want, but until we take action, it's not reality.